Yes, you are listening to the Ready, Set, Retire radio podcast with Steve Anzuoni. My name is Jessica Forkel. Get more details on the website at fairwayfinancial.net. You know, Steve, you've always told us that Roth conversions are a smart way to control future taxes. And thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, those low tax rates we've enjoyed since 2017, they're going to continue. But an article I recently read on Kiplinger says that this strategy is no longer a slam dunk. So first of all, what do they mean? What are they talking about here? And is this another reason why Roth conversions are not a DIY project?
Well, first of all, to be fair, they never were a slam dunk. Nothing is a slam dunk until you find out your particular situation. So I never say anything is until I sit and meet with people, because in order to do a Roth conversion correctly, you need to have cash on hand or in the bank, liquid cash available to pay the one-time taxes for the conversion, okay? So there's a lot of things that go into it. First of all, anything that is controlled by the government is never easy, okay? It's just not.
Amen.
It's always a hitch, a complication, right? Always something thrown in there, like the 5-year rule, right? You do a Roth, it's a 5-year averaging, before you can touch all the money and all this other stuff. So there's always something going on, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. You just have to find out if it's right for you, and if it is, and you're not taking advantage of it, wow, that could be a tragedy down the road. So this is why information and knowledge is so important in the right hands. And so I love Roths because, and by the way, you can do Roths actively if you're at work, because most employers do Roth 401ks. So all that means is the money is put in after tax. You don't get that deduction up front, but it all grows tax-free in the future. So that's the easiest way to do a Roth. The conversion is you're converting old money, so money that you've saved in a 401k and an IRA, and you're saying, I love that idea of being tax-free in the future. And by the way, who doesn't? But there's a price you got to pay up front. So, for example, let's say someone has $500,000 in a 401k, and they're still working, and they love the idea of converting some of that over time and making it all tax-free. So you're considering converting $100,000 of that in this particular tax year. So, number one, when that happens, that $100,000 has to be reported as if it was working income. So if you're already making a good wage, that might bump you to the next bracket. So perhaps it's not a good idea to convert that much money. Maybe you need to convert 50 or 40,000 and keep you in the same bracket. All right. So again, I told you it's never simple, but you just got to understand the pieces that come into play. Also, if you're, say, 66 and you're on Medicare and you do a conversion, it could drive your income up that year and drive up the amount you have to pay now for Medicare. There is no easy solution. However, that doesn't mean it's not the right solution in the long run, and you have to play the long-run picture here, because, you might get affected in 1 year, but if it can help you in, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, it could be a huge benefit to yourself and your family. So what I'm getting at here is it could be a great move, but you need to find out by talking with a professional who's been in business a long time, who has the answers for you, and who can help with your specific situation. This is not one of these things that you want to do it yourself and you want to try to figure it out because Joe down the street did it, or some other buddy said, hey, this is a good idea. Because it might be a good idea, but you don't know if it is for you. So again, just tell them how to reach us, and let's find out if it makes sense for you to do.
Now, you've heard of the 60-40 portfolio, right, where stocks are 60%, bonds are 40%. But have you heard of this 50-30-20 portfolio? Well, here's Morningstar's Amy Arnett, and she explains.
The idea is 50% stocks, 30% bonds, potentially 20% in alternatives, including private equity and private capital. Obviously, if a firm is offering exposure to alternative assets or private capital, they have a vested interest in promoting those asset classes. So they're going to be able to make more money if people do go ahead with that 20% allocation. And another thing to keep in mind is that the expenses are much, much higher on those alternative asset classes. You are definitely paying higher fees.
Okay, well, we know private equity has been a hot topic lately, especially since it might be finding its way into your 401ks very soon. So, Steve, is this something you consider in a retirement portfolio?
Well, being in business as long as I have and being, more conservative than most people, that kind of frightens me in people's serious money. I mean, your 401k is your serious money. That is money that everyone is saving because they need to supplement their Social Security income. I was thinking if she was going to say 50, 30, 20, that the 20 would be into something a little bit safer, like annuities, for example, fixed annuities, where recently they were offered inside of 401k plans. So I have, as you know, I have a team, and on my team is Vincent, and he's very, very good. He's independent, which is a requirement I have with anybody on my team. And he is a active money manager. This is what he's done for over 30 years. I mean, he's very, very good, and my clients love him. And whenever this topic comes up, I always default directly to him, which is, again, part of my team. So when you call into the show, you're getting the ability to speak with him as well as my attorney who does all our trusts and stuff like that. So it is a very important question because the 60-40 was considered in the past, the safe way to go. But, of course, 2022 turned the world upside down, and both stocks and bonds lost a significant amount of money that year. But like I said, my money guy is much more privy to all these talks and topics, and he's very, very well versed. And like I said, I've been working with him for many, many years, and my clients love him because he can take a complicated topic like this and break it down into, how do we put it, simple English so that people get it. And that's my whole philosophy. It's why I wrote my book, Tee Up Your Retirement, to help people understand the retirement game, if you will, in a more simplified manner by explaining all the pieces of the puzzle and the buckets of money and turning them into a great plan. So it is an important topic, and you're right. New things are thrown at us all the time, right? AI, right? It's a big topic. Technology markets are a big topic. But when it comes to 401ks, I'm particularly sensitive because I recall someone coming to my office, my older office in Yarmouth, back in 2007, 2008, and he was just, his heart was ripped out. He was ready to retire, and he walks into my office and he said, I had almost $1 million. I was pretty good to go, and the market took 40-something% of it away from him.
Oh, my gosh.
That was just devastating, and that was the year that he wanted to retire. Well, talk about a change of plans. The man had to go back to, not back, but he had to stay at work for another 5 years before he could retire. So that stuff is real, and it happens, and it's why I'm a huge believer of not putting all your eggs in one basket. And obviously, while you're still working, the easiest basket is the 401k. I encourage it. I do it myself. I think it's a great way to save for the future and to supplement your Social Security. And for most people who don't have a pension, it's even more important. But that's why I talk about buckets of wealth and creating a guaranteed income bucket and then a risk versus reward inflation bucket, the emergency funds, of course, and your favorite bucket, Jess?
The fun bucket.
The fun bucket, which all my clients love. And they go, what's that? I go, well, we can't talk about that yet. We'll get there. And that's how I leave it. But we want to develop these buckets. So, yeah, it's very important. There's a lot of technology, a lot of stuff going on. And you want to invest wisely, and you want to work with a professional who really just focuses on that 100%. And that's why I work with Vincent, because that's all he does. And just tell folks how they can get a hold of us to find out about this, and talk to myself and to Vincent and see if it's a right play for them.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to this retirement review, seeing what you have, what's missing, are there any gaps, what are the best options available for you? And gosh, if you want to avoid kind of like that story that you just talked about there where that guy lost 40%, folks, this is why it's so important to get things checked out now. Again, if you'd like to come in for this retirement review, we'll do it complimentary for our radio listeners. 508-552-3230, 508-552-3230. It feels like we just started this NFL season here, but there's already some head coaches that are in the hot seat and possibly in danger of losing their jobs. It usually comes down to a few reasons here. Number one, a poor start to the season after high expectations. And number two, a consistent losing record. Well, obviously that's not great. And number three, it's been too long since a playoff appearance. All right, so I took this idea here and thought about, all right, when it comes to planning for your retirement.
Okay, I knew you were going to swing this around. I said,
that's what I do.
Can do this.
Yes, this is what I do. So when it comes to planning your retirement, guys, your financial professional is your coach. So, Steve, what are some signs that maybe it's time to put them in the hot seat?
I have a philosophy, all right? It's your money. I should be in the hot seat 24/7 if you hire me to work with you, okay? I need to be accountable all the way. And whoever your financial professional is now, they need to be accountable, okay? Not just when the market's great, because, listen, if the market is great for you, think about it. It's probably great for everyone. Mm-hmm. When you need a financial professional, especially one who's in the market-based industry, you need them during tough times. You need them to coach you through those times, because that's when it's most important. That's when people make the biggest mistakes. And, I feel like my job is to help people get through what it is they're trying to do for saving for retirement, to educate them, but to also prevent them from making big mistakes. That's the real key to success. I mean, look, we can live with, I got a 4.5% CD and the guy down the street got 5. That's not gonna be a huge factor in your life. However, if you're in the wrong, investments, and let's say you get burnt and you get hurt bad, like that gentleman I talked about earlier, that's going to be a major mistake that you're going to pay a price for a very long time. That's the last thing you want to do. So, look, you got to be willing to, if you're hiring someone and you're paying someone a fee to do that, right? Active money management, it's called. Don't be afraid to call them. It's your money, right? If times are great, call them. Say, okay, I'm doing great. How come I'm doing? What's going on? We got to head for trouble soon because we're doing great now. What's the deal? You got to be very proactive to that. When people come to me and they come in my office, one of the biggest reasons they come in is they feel like they're not getting enough attention from where they're at now. I just had a couple come in with over $1 million portfolio. And you would think for $1 million you'd get some attention, right? Mm-hmm. And, they felt like they were just a number. They were one of, 1,000 people that their guy was working for, right? Well, that's not what we do here. That's not the impression we want to leave. Everybody who comes in here is important to us, and I don't care, and you heard me say this phrase before, I don't care if you have $200,000, $2 million, okay, whatever the number is, we're going to treat you the same. We're going to treat you with respect because that money you've worked for and you saved. And why people have different amounts is for different reasons, all right? Everyone goes through life differently. So my job is to find out what you have, where it is it working right for you? In other words, does the money match what your needs are, what your goals are, what your risk tolerance is? Because that's the most important thing. And, what we find is usually there are pieces out of place, And we just try to put those in the right place to help you feel more confident about where you're at and more knowledgeable about where you're at. And so we kind of consider ourselves a small family firm, right? I've got 3 employees. They're wonderful. One's my wife and 2 other wonderful employees that you get to meet. My studio is right here in my office, and people love to come in and say, oh, that's where your show is. That's cool. That's awesome. And that's the feel we want to have. We do events all the time for our customers. Matter of fact, in 2 or 3 weeks, I think, we're doing a trivia night at the at the Hyannis Yacht Club. We did it last year, our first time. It was a huge success. Everybody had a ball, and it's right down the street from the office. And we do stuff like that. We do like a lobster cruise. We're famous for doing that for onboarding our new clients. As a way to say, hey, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on board. And it's a lot of fun. And I think one year we had a bunch of dolphins swimming with us, Jess. I mean, it was just like
fun.
out of a movie. It was so cool. So, yeah, we love to do stuff for our customers because we appreciate you.
Yeah, and you really care.
I don't know. Maybe that's the way I was brought up. I was brought up, I'm Italian. I grew up in Everett, which is a very small suburb of Boston. My grandparents lived with me, right? And they were born in Italy, come over from Italy. So they were very giving, and I was taught that way from the beginning. You always treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's what we've done for many, many years, and we'll continue to do so. So if you find yourself in that situation where perhaps you're not getting the answers that you need, or maybe there's more out there that you're not hearing about, like we talk about in the show, then give us a call. Okay, we don't charge any fees for coming in and having a conversation, because that's all it is. It's just, first meeting is always, thanks for coming in. How can I help you? And then I be quiet and you become the voice for the meeting.
Get more details on the website, fairwayfinancial.net. That's fairwayfinancial.net.
Stephen Anzuoni is a licensed insurance provider by the Division of Insurance and is not registered as an investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Stephen Anzuoni, Massachusetts Insurance License 3851053. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. The information in this radio show is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Anzuoni is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Anzuoni is licensed in your state, please call 508-398-3337.